How are you guys doing? Today is Monday, October 4th, 2021. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, now that the 2021 MLB season is over, I'm going to take this episode to go through all the stats leaders in the American League, as of course I'm going to follow this up with an episode for the National League leaders. I think that considering all of the thousands, millions of baseball players that are playing professional baseball, and with all the various levels and all the different countries, the fact that the MLB is comprised of thousands of the best baseball players that the world has ever seen or has had to offer. And there's a way that and the fact that they're players that are standing out amongst the best of the best, I still think that they deserve to get recognized for their hard work and what they've been able to put in, and their hard work that they've been putting in from the beginning to the end of the season through off-season training. A lot of people are regular, consistent faces on here. Some people on this are completely new to the list. And these are players that should be recognized for what they did this season. So first, starting with the pitchers, looking at who led the league in pitching in the American League. Starting off with the American League leader, the league leader was Zack Wheeler. He pitched 213.1 innings. So there was not a single player that pitched at least 214 innings in baseball this season. The American League leader in innings pitched was Robbie Ray. Robbie Ray would pitch 193.1 innings as a starting pitcher for the Toronto Blue Jays in a season where the Blue Jays were just one win away from making the playoffs. They had 91 wins this season. Robbie Ray, in his 193 innings, would, first of all, allow 150 hits in those 193 innings, which is 43 less hits than innings pitched. He would finish with a 13-7 record and a 2.84 ERA. So Robbie Ray would put together an amazing season for himself. The second leader in American League innings pitched was Jose Barrios, another starting pitcher for the Toronto Blue Jays, a team that just finished outside the playoff picture. In the 192 innings he pitched, Barrios allowed 159 hits in that span, which would be a difference of 33 hits to innings pitched. He would finish with a 12-9 record and a 3.52 ERA. Third in the American League was Frankie Montaz, a starting pitcher for the Oakland Athletics, a team that finished with the third best record in the American League West. In the 187 innings he pitched, he allowed 164 hits, which is 23 less hits than innings pitched. Frankie Montaz's 187 hits would end up being the 9th most in baseball. Robbie Ray's were 5th and Jose Barrios were 6th. Those are the only three players in the American League that finished in the top 10 in innings pitched this season. And like I said, he had a 13-9 season holding a 3.37 ERA. Fourth in the American League in innings pitched was Nate Iavaldi, a starting pitcher for the Boston Red Sox, a team that is now going to be holding home field advantage in the American League wild card game. And he's going to be the starting pitcher for the Red Sox in that matchup. In the 182.1 innings he's pitched, he's allowed 182 hits, which is technically less hits than innings pitched this season. He would finish the season with an 11-9 record, holding a 3.75 ERA. His 182.1 innings are the 12th most in baseball this season. Number 5 in the American League would go to Garrett Cole, the elite starting pitcher for the New York Yankees. He would go on to pitch 181.1 innings pitched. And in those 181.1 innings, he would allow 151 hits, which is 30 less hits than innings pitched, in a season where the Yankees would just qualify for the playoffs as well, as they are going to be going to Boston to face off against the Red Sox. He's going to face off against the number 4 innings pitched pitcher, Nate Iavaldi, in that matchup. And thus far, Garrett Cole would finish with a 16-8 record, holding a 3.23 ERA. Like I said, he would be 14th in the MLB in innings pitched, tied with Joe Musgrove. 6th in the American League in innings pitched was Jordan Lyles, the starting pitcher for the Texas Rangers. He would go on to pitch 180 innings this season. That would go on he would tie for Tyler Mahle and German Marquez for 18th in all of baseball this season. He would go on to allow 194 hits, which is 14 more hits than innings pitched in that span. He would finish with a 10-13 record and a 5-15 ERA for a Texas Rangers team that finished with the worst record in the AL West. Seventh in the American League in innings pitched was Chris Flexon, the starting pitcher for the Seattle Mariners. He would pitch 179.2 innings, and he would allow 185 hits, which is six more hits than innings pitched. He would finish with a 14-6 record for a Mariners team that just finished outside the playoff race. He finished with a 3.61 ERA. His 179.2 innings pitched are the 21st most in baseball. Eighth in the American League is Sean Minaya. Sean Minaya is the starting pitcher for the Oakland Athletics. He would pitch 171.1 innings, allowing 179 hits, which, just like Iavaldi, is just 1.1 less hits than innings pitched. He would finish with an 11-10 record and a 3.91 ERA for an Oakland Athletics team that just missed the playoffs. Ninth in the, or I guess before I go on, his 179.1 innings pitched are tied with Max Scherzer and Brandon Woodruff for the 22nd most in the MLB this season. Ninth in the American League in innings pitched was Lucas Giolito. Giolito would pitch 178.2 innings for the Chicago White Sox that won the American League Central. He would allow 145 hits in those 178 innings, which is 33 less hits than innings pitched. In this season, he would finish with an 11-9 record, holding a 3.53 ERA. Lucas Giolito's 178.2 innings would end up being the 26th most in the American League. And then last but not least, 10th in the American League in innings pitched was Cole Irvin. Irvin would he would pitch 178.1 innings for an Oakland Athletics team that just missed the playoffs this year. He would go on to allow 195 hits, which is 17 more hits than innings pitched. He would finish with a 10-15 record and a 4.24 ERA. His 178.1 innings are the 27th most in the MLB this season. Taking a look at the leaders in wins at the moment as they finish off the season, the league leader in wins for the American League was Garrett Cole. He finished with 16. He finished with a 16-8 record as his 16 wins are tied with Walker Buehler's for the third most in the MLB. Chris Flexon of the Seattle Mariners, Steven Matz, the starting pitcher for the Toronto Blue Jays, and Hyunjin Ryu, the elite starting pitcher for the Toronto Blue Jays, all won 14 games this season. And then there was a six-way tie for the fifth most wins in the American League. But first, those three pitchers tied for sixth in the MLB with 14 wins. But the six-way tie for fifth place in the American League with 13 wins went to Dylan Cease, the starting pitcher for the Chicago White Sox, Lance McCullers Jr., the starting pitcher for the Houston Astros, Frankie Montaz of the Oakland Athletics, Robbie Ray of the Toronto Blue Jays, Carlos Rodon of the Chicago White Sox, and Eduardo Rodriguez from the Boston Red Sox, all won 13 games. Before I get into those, they are all tied for 14th in the MLB in terms of wins. Looking at who led the American League in losses, but before I get to losses, the MLB leader in losses was, the league leader in losses for the American League was Cole Irvin of the Oakland Athletics. He would finish with 15 losses on the season, and with his loss, he is now 10-15 on the year. He finished with the third most losses as Luis Castillo and Patrick Corbin. Luis Castillo of the Cincinnati Reds and Patrick Corbin of the Nationals would finish with 16 losses on the season. And in the American League, Matt Harvey of the Baltimore Orioles and Jorge Lopez of the Baltimore Orioles both finished with 14 losses on their season. Jordan Lyles of the Texas Rangers would finish with a 10-13 record, so he finished fourth in the American League in losses. And then Colby Allard of the Texas Rangers, Mike Foltynewicz of the Texas Rangers, Brad Keller of the Kansas City, and Mike Minor of the Kansas City Royals, and Tarek Skubal of the Detroit Tigers all finished with 12 losses on the season, tied for 12th in the majors. Taking a look at the ERA leaders this season, starting off with the Major League ERA leader out of the qualified pitchers, it was Corbin Burns, the starting pitcher of the Milwaukee Brewers. Robbie Ray was the leader in the American League. He was the only American League pitcher who had an ERA below 3. His was sitting at 284, and he was not to mention he was the player that had the most innings pitched in the American League, which is more than likely going to set him up for the Cy Young this year, considering but the Blue Jays almost made the playoffs. They were a good team this year, but still, their second in the American League in ERA was Lance McCullers Jr. of the Houston Astros. He finished with a 3.16 ERA. His 3.16 ERA would rank 12th in the MLB this season. In third would be Garrett Cole, the elite starting pitcher of the New York Yankees. He finished with a 3.23 ERA. His would sit 16th in the MLB. Fourth in the American League in ERA was Frankie Montaz. He would finish with a 3.37 ERA on the year. Montaz's 3.37 ERA is tied with Wade Miley for 18th in the league. Fifth in the American League was Jose Barrios. He finished with a 3.52 ERA on the year. Jose Barrios' 3.52 ERA is sitting 20th in the entire MLB. Sixth in the American League was Lucas Giolito of the Chicago White Sox. He's sitting on a 3.53 ERA, which is 21st in the league. Seventh in the American League was Chris Flexon. He finished with a 3.61 ERA. Chris Flexon's 3.61 ERA was 22nd in the league this season. Eighth in the American League was Nate Iavaldi, who finished with a 3.75 ERA, which is 25th in the entire league. Ninth in the American League was Dylan Cease of the Chicago White Sox, tied with Sean Minaya. They both had a 3.91 ERA. They would be tied for 26th in the MLB as well. Taking a look at who was able to throw complete games, only Garrett Cole and Sean Minaya were able to throw complete games, or able to throw 2 complete games in the American League. They did not lead the majors, as German Marquez, Adam Wainwright, and Zach Wheeler were able to throw complete games. But taking a look at who was able to get shutouts, Sean Minaya was the only player to get 2 shutouts in the American League. Taking a look at who was able to lead the American League in saves this season. The American League leader in saves went to Liam Hendricks. He had 38 saves. He was second in the MLB to Mark Melancon of the San Diego Padres, and he was tied with Kenley Jansen of the LA Dodgers. Second in the American League in saves was Rhizel Iglesias, the closer for the Los Angeles Angels, as he had 34 saves and 39 opportunities. I guess first going back to Liam Hendricks, in the 71 innings that Liam Hendricks pitched, he allowed 45 hits and would finish with a 2.54 ERA. First of all, that's 26 less hits than innings pitched, and he would do so for a playoff team. So, of course, all hats off to him. And in second place, Rhizel Iglesias would allow only 53 hits in those 70 innings as he finished with a 2.57 ERA, as he had a very solid season for himself. Aroldis Chapman would go on to finish third in the American League in saves, as he had 30 saves in 34 opportunities. In 56 innings pitched, he would allow 36 hits, which is 20 less hits than innings pitched, and he would finish with a 3.36 ERA for a Yankees team that's in the playoffs. He is currently sitting he would finish ninth in the MLB in saves. Fourth in the American League will go to Ryan Pressly. He would be the closer for the Houston Astros, and with this, Ryan Pressly is now sitting 11th in the MLB, where he's with his 26 saves. He would allow 49 runs in the 64 innings that he pitched, as Ryan Pressly finished the season with a 2.25 ERA. Tied for fifth in the American League in saves was Matt Barnes of the Boston Red Sox and Emmanuel Clase of the Cleveland Indians. They both finished with 24 saves on the year. They would tie for 13th in the MLB. Barnes would allow 41 runs in 54 innings. That's 13 less hits than innings pitched, as he finished with a 3.79 ERA. Emmanuel Clase would allow 51 hits in 69 innings pitched, as he would finish with a 1.29 ERA. And he would, in the 71 games that he played, which is tied for the most in the top 10 in the American League. So they would both tie for 13th. 7th in the American League will go to Jordan Romano, the closer for the Toronto Blue Jays. He would go on to allow 41 hits in his 63 innings pitched, as he would finish with 23 saves and 24 appearances. He would go 7-1, and he would finish with a 2.14 ERA on the year. 18th in the American League in saves will go to Lou Trevino of the Oakland Athletics. He would finish with 22 saves and 26 opportunities. He allowed 58 hits and 73.2 innings pitched, as he finished with a 3.18 ERA along with a 7-8 record. Lou Trevino would finish with the 17th most saves in baseball. 9th in the American League will go to Gregory Soto, the all-star closer for the Detroit Tigers. He would finish with 18 saves and 19 opportunities. He allowed 46 hits in 63 innings, which is 17 less hits than innings pitched. He would finish with a 4-4 record a 6-3 record and a 3.39 ERA for a Tigers team that missed the playoffs. And then 10th in the American League will go to Alex Colome, the closer for the Minnesota Twins. He would finish with 17 saves on the season, which would be the 21st most in all of baseball this year. He would finish with a 4-4 record and a 4.15 ERA. So those are the save leaders. Taking a look at who was able to lead baseball first in. Let's look at who gave up the most home runs in baseball, or the most earned runs in baseball. The most earned runs in baseball was given up by Patrick Corbin in Washington, but Jordan Lyles gave up the most runs as he played for the Texas Rangers. Second most runs were given up by Dallas Keuchel. Keuchel gave up 95, which is 8 less than Lyles' 103. Lyles would finish second in the league in runs given up. Keuchel would finish tied for 5th in runs given up. Matt Harvey for the Baltimore Orioles and Mike Minor, the Kansas City Royals, would tie for 3rd, as they both gave up 89 runs. Their 89 runs given up would tie for 8th in the league, and then 5th in the American League in runs given up were given by Ryan Yarbrough. He gave up 88 runs in the 30 games that he pitched. And Ryan Yarbrough's 88 is tied with German Marquez for the 10th most amount of runs given up. Looking at the pitchers who gave up the most home runs in baseball this year, Jordan Lyles of the Texas Rangers gave up the most home runs in baseball. He gave up 38 home runs. Second in the league will be Mike Foltynewicz, as Mike Foltynewicz would give up 35 home runs for the Texas Rangers. Tarek Skubal would also give up 35 home runs, as he did so for the Detroit Tigers. Robbie Ray would finish 4th in the American League, as he gave up 33 home runs for the Blue Jays this season. And 5th was a two-way tie between Zach Greinke of the Houston Astros and John Means of the Baltimore Orioles. They both gave up 30 home runs on the season. Looking at the pitchers that hit the most batters, it looks as though Alek Manoah of the Toronto Blue Jays has hit the most batters. He's hit 16. Jose Barrios hit 15. Looking at the pitchers that have walked the most batters, Lance McCullers of the Houston Astros has walked 76 batters. That's the most in baseball. Second is Dylan Cease. He would walk 68 batters. That would be the 6th most in baseball. Nick Pivetta of the Red Sox walked 65. That would be the 7th most in baseball. 4th in the American League would be Brad Keller. He walked 64 batters. That would end up being tied for the 8th most. And then 5th in the American League in walks given was Yusei Kikuchi of the Seattle Mariners. He would go on to give up the 14th most amount of walks. Looking at who would lead the American League in strikeouts, or just looking at who led all of the league in strikeouts, the league leader was Robbie Ray. Robbie Ray would strike out 248 batters in 193 innings. Like I said, he would go on to finish with a 2.84 ERA. As with the American League Triple Crown, I cannot see this man not winning the Cy Young. I didn't realize he won the Triple Crown until I read it out. But of course, Robbie Ray would lead the league in strikeouts. And then second in the American League will be Garrett Cole, the elite starting pitcher for the New York Yankees, would strike out 243 batters in 181 innings. That's 62 more strikeouts than innings pitched, by the way. Third in the Garrett Cole would finish third in the majors. Third in the American League will go to Dylan Cease of the Chicago White Sox. He struck out 226 batters in 165 innings. That is a difference of 61 more strikeouts than innings pitched, and Dylan Cease would finish seventh in the majors in strikeouts. Fourth in the American League in strikeouts went to Frankie Montaz of the Oakland Athletics, as he struck out 207 batters in 187 innings. That's 20 more strikeouts than innings pitched, as Frankie Montaz would finish 13th in the majors. Fifth in the American League in strikeouts was Jose Barrios. He struck out 204 batters in 192 innings. That's 12 more strikeouts than innings pitched. His 204 strikeouts are the 14th most in baseball. Sixth in the American League in strikeouts was Lucas Giolito of the Chicago White Sox. He struck out 201 batters in 178 innings. That's 23 more strikeouts than innings pitched. His 201 innings are tied with Sandy Alcantara of the Miami Marlins for sixth in all of baseball. Seventh in the American League in strikeouts was Nate Iavaldi. He struck out 195 batters in 182 innings for a Red Sox team that is competing for the wild card. His 195 innings are tied with Freddie Peralta and Julio Urias for the 19th most in baseball. Eighth in the American League in strikeouts is Sean Minaya. He has 194 strikeouts and 179.1 innings for an A's team that just got knocked out. That's 15 more strikeouts than innings pitched. Sean Minaya is sitting 22nd in all of baseball in strikeouts. And then in the American League, there is a three-way tie between Lance McCullers of the Astros, Carlos Rodon of the Chicago White Sox, and Eduardo Rodriguez for 9th in the American League and 24th in all of baseball. Lance McCullers has 185 strikeouts and 162 innings. That's 23 more strikeouts than innings pitched for the season. Carlos Rodon struck out 185 batters in 132 innings. That's a difference of about 53 strikeouts, more strikeouts than hits. And then Eduardo Rodriguez for the Red Sox was able to strike out 185 and 157 innings. That would be a difference of about 28 more strikeouts than innings pitched. So that was that for strikeouts. Taking a look at the top five in WHIP, which is walk/hits per innings pitched. The best in baseball in walk/hits per innings pitched was Max Scherzer of the National League, but of course he's pitching against he's throwing against the pitcher every ninth batter. But in the American League, the best whip was given to Robbie Ray. He had a 104. Tied for second was Garrett Cole and Jose Barrios with a 106. Lucas Giolito finished fourth with a 110 whip, and Zach Greinke would allow 1.17 base runners per innings pitched. Last but not least, taking a look at who had the highest batting average against, or the best batting average against in terms of all pitchers, it was Dallas Keuchel of the Chicago White Sox, or in terms of batting average against as a pitcher, it was actually Max Scherzer of the Washington Nationals, who had a 187 batting average against. None of the American League pitchers are in the top 10 because, you have that American League curve for a little bit. But for batting average against, the best pitcher was Lance McCullers. He had a 205 batting average against, as of course he finished with a 13-5 record for the division-winning Houston Astros. Second in the league was Robbie Ray, who had a 210 batting average against. Third Robbie Ray, of course, with the season with the Blue Jays. Lucas Giolito would go on to put together a 219 batting average against while pitching for the American League Central champs Chicago White Sox. Jose Barrios, Dylan Cease, and Garrett Cole would tie for fourth in the American League, as they all had a 223 batting average against. Frankie Montaz of the Oakland A's was seventh in the American League, as he allowed a 232 batting average against him. Zach Greinke with a 252. Nate Iavaldi finishing ninth with a 253, and Sean Minaya of the A's with a 255. Those were all the leaders in terms of pitching. Taking a quick look at who were the hitting leaders, and of course, they're definitely measured on different metrics because, pitchers will pitch only, 30 games of the season, where, of course, the hitters play 162. I know it sounds incredibly obvious, but I don't know but of course, it's just taking into account, just grasping all of the context of the situation. But taking a look at who was able to lead the American League in games played, Whit Merrifield and Marcus Semien were the only two players in the American League who would play all 162 games. Whit Merrifield, the elite second baseman for the Kansas City Royals, and Marcus Semien, the all-star second baseman for the Toronto Blue Jays. They were the only two players in all the MLB to play all 160 games. Third in the American League in games played was Vladimir Guerrero Jr., as he and Salvador Perez both played 161 games. That's not the only thing that they tied in. I'll get to that in a second. They're tied for third in all of baseball. And of course, fifth in the major league in games played was J.P. Crawford for the Seattle Mariners, as he played 160 games. He was also fifth in the major leagues, tied with Austin Riley and Dansby Swanson of the Atlanta Braves. The American League at-bats leader was Whit Merrifield. He would finish with 664, as he had the most at-bats in all of baseball, because he did play in 162 games, and he did lead off for all those games. The player that had the second most at-bats was Marcus Semien, the all-star second baseman for the Toronto Blue Jays. He was also second in the MLB with 652. Third most at-bats in baseball went to Beau Bashette of the Toronto Blue Jays, as he had 640 at-bats. That's the fourth most in all of baseball. Fourth most at-bats in the American League went to Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, the shortstop of the Texas Rangers. He would have 635, which would be the fifth most in all of baseball. And then the fifth most at-bats were given to David Fletcher, the second baseman of the LA Angels, as he had 626, which would be the seventh most in the the seventh most in all of baseball, just to give a sense of where they are. With that said, looking at who was able to lead the league in hits, the American League batting title was given to Beau Bashette, as the league batting title was given to Trey Turner. Trey Turner had 195 hits. Beau Bashette had 191 hits. Beau Bashette was also named an All-Star for the very first time this season. And then second in the American League, the runner-up in the hits race was Vladimir Guerrero Jr., the elite first baseman for the Toronto Blue Jays. His 181 hits would be the third most in all of baseball this season. And additionally, the third most hits in the American League will go to Whit Merrifield, the elite second baseman for the Kansas City Royals, who played all 162 games. His 184 hits are the fourth most in all of baseball. Fourth in the American League in hits went to Cedric Mullins, the all-star center fielder for the Baltimore Orioles. He had 175 hits in 159 games. That would be 16 more hits than games played. And looking at the top, Beau Bechette's 191 over 59, that's 42 more. Vladimir Guerrero's 188 over 161 is 28 more. Whit Merrifield is 22 over 22. I just forgot. Please forgive me. Fifth in the American League in hits was Jonathan Scope, the first baseman for the Tigers, as he tied with Marcus Semien, the all-star second baseman for the Toronto Blue Jays. Marcus Semien would hit 173 balls in 162 games. It's 11 more hits than games played. Jonathan Scope hit 173 balls in 156 games played. That's 17 more hits than games played. Their 173 hits would tie for 10th in the major leagues in hits. Seventh in the American League in hits was Isaiah Kiner-Falefa of the shortstop of the Texas Rangers. He had 172 hits in 158 games. That's 14 more hits than games played. He would finish 12th in the major league in hits. There was a three-way tie for 8th in the American League as hits as J.P. Crawford, the shortstop for the Seattle Mariners, Yuli Gurriel, the first baseman for the Houston Astros, and Salvador Perez, the elite catcher for the Kansas City Royals, would all finish with 169 hits on the season. Salvador Perez finished with 169 hits in 161 games. That's 8 more hits than games played. J.P. Crawford had 169 hits in 160 games. That's 9 more hits than games played. And Yuli Gurriel had 169 hits in 143 games played. That's 26 more hits than games played. Their 169 hits is tied for 13th in all of baseball in total hits. Taking a look at, now let's break up those hits as we look to see who was, looking to see who was able to come home the most. The league leader in runs was the American League leader in runs was Vladimir Guerrero Jr., as he also led all of baseball. He had 123 runs in 161 games. Second in the American League was Beau Bashette. He had 121 runs, as that was second in the major leagues as well. Third in the American League in runs was Jose Altuve, the elite second baseman of the Houston Astros, finished fourth in the league in runs. Finishing fourth in the American League in runs was Marcus Semien. He had 115 runs in 162 games. His 115 runs would be fifth in the majors. Fifth in the league would be Jose Ramirez, the elite third baseman for the Cleveland Indians. He had 111 runs, and as he finished sixth in the major leagues, tied with Juan Soto. Seventh in the American League was Carlos Correa. He had 104 runs over his season as he helped the Astros clinch the playoffs. His 104 runs are the 10th most in all of baseball this season. Eighth in the American League in runs went to Shohei Otani, the all-star designated hitter for the Los Angeles Angels. He had 103 runs on the season, which was tied with Ozzie Albies, the elite second baseman for the Atlanta Braves, for the 11th most in baseball. Ninth in the AL was a two-way tie between Raphael Devers, the all-star third baseman for the Boston Red Sox, and Matt Olson, the first baseman for the Oakland Athletics. They would finish with 101 runs on the season, which would tie for 14th in the major leagues. They would tie with Bryce Harper with that. Taking a look at who was able to lead the American League in doubles this season, it was a three-way tie between Jeimer Candelario, J.D. Martinez, and Whit Merrifield. They're also tied with Bryce Harper of the National League for the most doubles in baseball. Jeimer Candelario, third baseman for the Detroit Tigers. J.D. Martinez, the elite designated hitter for the Boston Red Sox. And Whit Merrifield, the elite second baseman for the Kansas City Royals, all had 42. Fourth in the American League in doubles was Marcus Semien, the all-star second baseman for the Toronto Blue Jays, finished with 39 doubles on the year. Fifth in the American League was a four-way tie between J.P. Crawford, the shortstop of the Seattle Mariners, Raphael Devers, the all-star third baseman for the Boston Red Sox, the Cedric Mullins, the center fielder for the Baltimore Orioles, and Kyle Tucker, the right fielder for the Houston Astros. Their 37 doubles are tied for ninth in the MLB. And then sitting in ninth with 35 doubles, you have Yordan Alvarez, the designated hitter for the Houston Astros, Kike Hernandez, the center fielder for the Boston Red Sox, Matt Olson, the first baseman for the Oakland Athletics, and Jorge Polanco, the second baseman for the Minnesota Twins. They are all tied for 15th in the MLB in doubles. Taking a look at the triples leaders in the American League, Shohei Otani would lead the American League in triples as he tied with David Peralta and Brian Reynolds for the MLB lead. Second in the American League in triples was a two-way tie between Akil Baddoo and Kevin Kiermaier. Akil Baddoo, the center fielder of the Detroit Tigers, and Kevin Kiermaier, the center fielder of the Tampa Bay Rays. They would tie for fourth in the MLB. And then there would be a five-way tie for fourth in the American League for fourth in triples as Luis Arraez from the Minnesota Twins, Willie Castro, the second baseman of the Detroit Tigers, Hunter Dozier, the right fielder of the Kansas City Royals, Nikki Lopez, the shortstop of the Kansas City Royals, and Ahmed Rosario, the shortstop for the Cleveland Indians, all finished with 6 on the season. They would go on to tie for 8th in the American League. And then taking a look at the four-way tie for 9th in the American League in triples. Finishing with 5 triples, you found Bobby Dahlbeck, the first baseman for the Boston Red Sox, Wander Franco, who only played 7 games for the Tampa Bay Rays, Cedric Mullins, the all-star center fielder for the Baltimore Orioles, and Jose Ramirez, the elite third baseman for the Cleveland Indians, all finished with 5 triples on the season. Taking a look at the American League home run leaders this season, first of all, the MLB leaders were the two American League home run leaders, and the crown was split between Salvador Perez, the elite catcher for the Kansas City Royals, who's already won a World Series, and Vladimir Guerrero, the elite young first baseman for the Toronto Blue Jays, who was named an All-Star for the very first time this season. They both would hit 48 home runs. Salvador Perez's 48 home runs would come with 121 RBIs. Vladimir Guerrero's would have 111. But regardless, I'll get to that in a second. Shohei Otani, the designated hitter for the Los Angeles Angels, would finish third in the league in home runs as he had 46. Fourth in the American League was Marcus Semien, the all-star second baseman for the Toronto Blue Jays. He had 45 home runs on the season, a historic home run season for second baseman in the MLB, especially, Marcus Semien, great game for him. And with this, or I guess following this, he is also fourth in the, he would finish fourth in the major leagues as well. There was a four-way tie for fifth in the American League in home runs as Mitch Haniger, the right fielder for the Seattle Mariners, Aaron Judge, the elite right fielder for the New York Yankees, Brandon Lau, the second baseman for the Tampa Bay Rays, and Matt Olson of the Oakland Athletics would all finish with 35 home runs on the season. Their 39 home runs would tie them for sixth in the majors. And then there was a two-way tie for ninth in the American League as Raphael Devers, the all-star third baseman for the Boston Red Sox, and Joey Gallo, the left fielder for the New York Yankees, would finish with 38 home runs. Their 38 home runs would tie them with Adam Duvall of the Atlanta Braves for the 10th most in all of baseball. Taking a look at the American League RBI crown, the leader in RBIs was Salvador Perez, the elite catcher for the Kansas City Royals. He would finish with 121 RBIs his 121 RBIs are the most in the American League. And then second in RBIs would be Jose Abreu, the elite reigning American League MVP for the Chicago White Sox. He would finish with 117 RBIs alongside his 30 home runs. His 117 RBIs are the second most in the American League. Third in the American League would be Teoscar Hernandez, the right fielder for the Toronto Blue Jays. He finished with 116 RBIs alongside his 32 home runs. That would be the third most in baseball as well. There would be a two-way tie in the American League in RBIs as Raphael Devers, the all-star third baseman for the Red Sox, there'll be a two-way tie in the major leagues as he tied with Adam Duvall, but he would take sole place of fourth for the fourth most RBIs in the American League. There was a two-way tie for the fifth most RBIs in the American League as Vladimir Guerrero Jr., the elite first baseman for the Toronto Blue Jays, and Matt Olson, the first baseman for the Oakland A's, finished with 11 RBIs each. Seventh in the American League in RBIs was Austin Meadows, the left fielder for the Tampa Bay Rays. He had 106 RBIs, which would tie him with Manny Machado and Ozzie Albies for ninth in the majors. Eighth in the American League in RBIs was Yordan Alvarez. He finished with 104 RBIs alongside his 33 home runs. His 104 RBIs are the 13th most in baseball. Ninth in the American League in RBIs was Jose Ramirez, the elite third baseman for the Cleveland Indians. He would have 103 RBIs alongside his 36 home runs. His 103 RBIs are the 14th most in baseball. And then 10th in the American League will be a two-way tie between the two players that straddle the second base plate at Rogers Center. There's all-star second baseman Marcus Semien and their all-star shortstop Beau Beschette. Beau Bashette has 102 RBIs alongside his 29 home runs. Marcus Semien has 102 RBIs alongside his 45 home runs. Looking at the players in the American League that have drawn the most walks, Joey Gallo has walked the most times in the American League. He has walked 111 times, but he has not been walked as much as Juan Soto. Juan Soto has been walked 145 times in 151 games. Second in the American League in walks is Robbie Grossman. He's been walked 98 times. That's the fourth most in baseball. Shohei Otani, the all-star designated hitter for the Los Angeles Angels, has been walked 96 times. That's the fifth most walks in the MLB. Matt Olson, the first baseman for the Oakland A's, was walked 88 times. That is the sixth most times in baseball. And then fifth in baseball was fifth in the American League was Yasmani Grandal. He would finish with 87 walks, which would be tied for seventh, which would be not tied. He would be the seventh most walked player in the MLB this season. Looking at the players that have been struck out the most, Joey Gallo has been struck out 213 times. That is the most time in baseball. Second in the American League in strikeouts is Matt Chapman, the elite third baseman for the Oakland A's. He's also second, the only two players in baseball that have been struck out over 200 times this year. Iavaldi Garcia, the center fielder for the Texas Rangers, has been struck out 194 times. That is third in the league as well. Fourth in the American League was Shohei Otani, the all-star designated hitter for the Los Angeles Angels. He's been struck out 189 times, which is also the fourth most in baseball. And then fifth in the American League is Miguel Sano. He struck out 183 times, which is the sixth most in baseball. Taking a look at the stolen base leaders on the season, in the American League, the stolen base leader was Whit Merrifield, the elite second baseman for the Kansas City Royals. He would only finish behind Starling Marte, the center fielder for the Oakland A's, for steals on the season. But Whit Merrifield's 40 would be more than would get him a really solid season when it comes down to it at the very end. I'm impressed. But I continue on. Cedric Mullins and Miles Straw would tie for second in the American League in stolen bases, as they had 30. Only 3 players in the American League and 6 players in all of baseball would finish with 30 stolen bases. Fourth in the American League was Jose Ramirez, the elite third baseman for the Cleveland Indians, as he stole 27 bases. That'd be the seventh most in baseball. Fifth in the American League in stolen bases was Shohei Otani, the all-star designated hitter for the Los Angeles Angels, as he stole 26 bases. That would be the eighth most in all of the MLB. Sixth in the American League was a two-way tie between Beau Bashette, the shortstop for the Toronto Blue Jays, and Starling Marte, the center fielder of the Oakland Athletics. They would both finish with 25 stolen bases, which is tied for I guess it would be tied for ninth in the majors. But that was Starling Marte when he was playing in the American League, because he started his season with the Marlins. So Starling Marte, even in his American League tenure, is a top 10 base stealer. Eighth in the American League was Nikki Lopez, the shortstop for the Kansas City Royals. His 22 steals were 12th in the league. Ninth was Dylan Moore, the second baseman for the Seattle Mariners. Dylan Moore would go with his 21 steals, is now sitting 13th in the league. And then there was a 3-way tie for 20 steals for the 10th most in the American League. They went to Robbie Grossman, the left fielder for the Detroit Tigers. Randy Arozarena, the elite left fielder from the Tampa Bay Rays, and Isaiah Kiner-Falefa of the Texas Rangers. They all had 20 steals on the day. And then looking at the players that were caught stealing the most in the American League, no player's been caught stealing more than Randy Arozarena or Shohei Otani. They both have been caught stealing 10 times. Andrew Benintendi of the Kansas City Royals got caught 9 times. Manuel Gamargo and Cedric Mullins are tied for third. They were both caught stealing 8 times. Now taking a look at just the sabermetrics of it all, looking at the players that would lead in batting average, the batting crown for the entire MLB went to Trey Turner, who finished with a 3.28 ERA on the season. In the American League, the batting title went to Yuli Gurriel, the first baseman of the Houston Astros. He finished with a 3.19 ERA in the 143 games he played. Second in the major leagues was Michael Brantley, the left fielder for the Houston Astros. You have 2 players from the same team that won the division. Of course, it makes sense. He would tie with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. with a 3.11 ERA, which would be tied for the 4th best in baseball. The 4th best batting average in the American League went to Tim Anderson, the elite shortstop for the Chicago White Sox. He finished with a 3.09 ERA. That would be the 6th best in baseball, tied with Bryce Harper and Nick Castellanos. Fifth in the American League was Nikki Lopez, the shortstop for the Kansas City Royals, as he was the 5th and final player in the American League and the 14th player in the major leagues that was batting 300. He was tied with Freddie Freeman of the Atlanta Braves. Sixth in the American League in batting average is Beau Bashette, the all-star shortstop for the Toronto Blue Jays, finished with a 2.98 ERA 2.98 batting average on the season. That would be the 15th best in baseball. The 7th best batting average in the American League went to Teoscar Hernandez, the right fielder for the Toronto Blue Jays. He had a 2.96 batting average on the season, which would be the 17th best in baseball. 8th in the American League was Xander Bogaerts, the shortstop for the all-star shortstop for the Boston Red Sox. He would finish with a 295 batting average in the 144 games he played for the Red Sox team that just made the playoffs. And his 294 batting average is 8th. His 295 batting average is 8th in baseball. 9th in the American League is Kyle Tucker, who finished with a 294. That is the 19th best in the American League. And Ty France, along with the first baseman for the Mariners, as well as Cedric Mullins, the center fielder of the Baltimore Orioles, would finish with a 291 batting average each. They would be tied for the 21st best batting average in all of baseball this season. And of course, hats off to these players that have just been keeping it up. But hitting it over like 270 at all is incredibly impressive. The fact that there's 14 players that hit over 300 is amazing. Hats off to Trey Turner for winning the MLB batting title. That's a big feat. Taking a look at the on-base percentage leaders, the on-base percentage leader in all of baseball was Juan Soto. He had a absurd 465 on-base percentage, meaning that he almost made it to base half the time he got to the plate. And he played 157 games this season. And of course, a big part of that will come from the fact that he would get walked 45 times more than any other player. But still, that's incredible. So in the American League, the on-base percentage crown went to Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He was the only player in the American League and one of 3 players in all of baseball that finished with an OBP over 400. His was at 401. Second in the American League in on-base percentage was Yuli Gurriel. His was at 38.3. His 38.3 was the 6th best in baseball. Third in the MLB in on-base percentage was Yoan Moncada, the third baseman for the Chicago White Sox, would finish with the 6th best or the 10th best in all of baseball. Fourth in the American League and on-base percentage was Aaron Judge, the elite right fielder for the Yankees. His 373 on-base percentage is tied with Brandon Crawford for the 13th best record in baseball. Fifth in the American League in on-base percentage was Shohei Otani, the all-star designated hitter for the Los Angeles Angels. His 372 is 15th in all of the league. Their 6th best player with on-base percentage-wise is Matt Olson. He would finish with a 371 OBP, which would be 16th in the league. 17th in the American League was Xander Bogaerts, the all-star shortstop for the Boston Red Sox. His .370 on-base percentage would be 17th in the league. 8th in the American League and on-base percentage was Ty France. Ty France's 368 on-base percentage was tied with Max Muncy and Adam Frazier for 18th in the league. 9th in the American League and on-base percentage was Carlos Correa, the shortstop for the Houston Astros. His would be at 366, sitting at 23rd. And then 10th in the American League in batting average is Nikki Lopez, tied with Paul Goldschmidt for 24th in the entire league, sitting at 365. Taking a look at the slugging percentage leaders this year, the leading slugger was Vladimir Guerrero Jr. out of the American League and Bryce Harper as a whole. Bryce Harper would have a 615 slugging percentage on the year. Vladimir Guerrero's would be 601. His would be the 3rd best in baseball. Second in the MLB was Shohei Otani, who had a 592 slugging percentage. That would be the 4th best in baseball. 3rd best slugging percentage in the American League was Kyle Tucker. Kyle Tucker's 557 slugging percentage would end up being the 8th best record, the 8th best in the American League, or the 8th best record in the majors. The 4th best slugging percentage went to Aaron Judge, the elite right fielder for the New York Yankees, tied with Salvador Perez, the elite catcher for the Kansas City Royals. Their 544 slugging percentage would be tied for the 9th best in all of baseball. The 6th best slugging percentage went to Matt Olson. He would finish with a .540 slugging percentage. That would be the 11th best in baseball. The 7th best slugging percentage went to Marcus Semien. He had a .538, tied with Raphael Devers and Jose Ramirez of the Cleveland Indians with a .538. That would be tied for 12th in all of baseball. Last but not least, in 10th place, Yordan Alvarez would finish with a .531 slugging percentage, which would go down as the 17th best slugging percentage in the majors this season. Then when you combine on base and slugging percentage, the top slugger in the American League, of course, was Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He was one of 2 players this season to have an OPS of over 1,000. The highest OPS this year went to Bryce Harper, who had a 1044. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is sitting at 1002. So, of course, the fact that his slugging percentage, his on-base percentage add up to over 1,000 shows that he was virtually unstoppable at the plate this season. So, hats off to him. The second highest OPS in the American League went to Shohei Otani. He had a 965 OPS on the season. That will be the 5th best in all of baseball this year. The 3rd highest OPS went to Kyle Tucker of the Houston Astros. He had a 917, which would be the 8th best in baseball. 4th in the American League went to Aaron Judge. His 916 OPS was the 9th best in baseball. 5th in the American League was Matt Olson, the first baseman for the Oakland Athletics. His 911 OPS would be tied with Trey Turner for the 12th best OPS in baseball. The 6th best OPS in the American League will go to Jose Ramirez, the elite's third baseman for the Cleveland Indians. His 893 OPS would be the 19th best in baseball. The 7th best OPS in the American League went to Raphael Devers. His 890 OPS would be the 20th best in baseball. 8th place would be Cedric Mullins. His 878 OPS would be the 22nd best in baseball. In 9th place, Yordan Alvarez would have an 877 OPS, which would be the 23rd best in baseball. And sitting at 10th in the American League, the best slugger when you combine the 2 metrics that people really kind of care about. The 10th highest OPS in the American League went to Marcus Semien. He had an 873 OPS, and his 873 OPS would be 24th in the league. I hope that is enough to at least convince you that a lot of these players are really the cream of the crop when it comes to what they do. This really is an art form. And when you take into account that in the American League, this is 15 teams. Like, these are hundreds of players that have competed with thousands of others to make it to the major leagues in the first place. And these are the best of the best. And this season was a very tough season to be the best in. So, of course, I tip my hat. Great season to all of these players. And I want to thank everyone for listening to this piece. I hope all is well. I want to thank the MLB website. And following this, I will do a piece on the National League side of everything. So until then, thanks once again, and I'll catch you with an episode after this. Peace out.